She signed a $6 million contract that should have changed everything. For Robin Reyes, it was the dream she bled for on rain-soaked courts, the moment her family could finally be proud. Instead, her homecoming became a nightmare. Cold stares, bitter words, and a sister's shove that left her broken at the bottom of the stairs. Left for dead and robbed by the people meant to love her, Robin rose from the hospital bed with one mission: justice. This isn't just the story of an athlete. It's the story of survival, betrayal, and the comeback they never saw coming. I was 27, sitting in a high-rise hotel suite in downtown Chicago, staring out at the skyline with a pen in one hand and a multi-million-dollar contract in the other. I had just signed with the Chicago Blaze. $6 million. 3 years. A performance bonus that could take it even higher. It was everything I had worked for. Every drop of sweat on that rainy court back in Boston, every sleepless night juggling jobs and training, every game where my parents didn't show up, it all led to this moment. I should have been celebrating. But instead, I was thinking about home. Home where no one ever believed in me, where my dreams were a waste of time, and my success, even now, would likely be met with silence or sarcasm. Still, some part of me hoped maybe this would be the thing that changed it. Maybe now they'd finally see me. So I called Marcus, my boyfriend, and the man who helped me negotiate every word of that contract. I needed to talk it through, not the legal stuff, the emotional stuff. "Are you sure you want to go back there?" he asked, his voice low, measured. "You know how they are." "I know," I said, heart twisting, "but I want to give them one more chance. I want to believe they'll be proud of me, just once." He didn't argue. He never did when it came to my family. But I could hear the worry in his silence. "I just don't want you to get hurt again," he finally said. "I won't," I lied. "This time is different." Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from and make sure to subscribe, because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. Before my flight, I stopped at the mall. I wasn't just going home to tell them about the contract. I was bringing gifts. An expensive watch for my father, a designer purse for my mom, a necklace for Vanessa, my sister, a gaming console for my younger brother, Noah. Each one chosen carefully, personally. Like maybe the right gift could fix the years we lost. I imagined it all, the smiles, the hugs, the way my mother might say, "I'm so proud of you, Robin." The way my father might finally see me as something other than the disappointing daughter. As I drove through my old neighborhood, the Boston air colder than I remembered, a quiet hope battled the anxious knot in my stomach. I rehearsed the words in my head. "I signed with Chicago, $6 million. I want to celebrate with you." I told myself this time would be different. But the house looked the same porch light, the same rusting mailbox, the same front door I used to dread walking through after practice. And when I opened that door, everything felt off. My mother blinked when she saw me, like I was unexpected. My father glanced up from the TV with a grunt. Vanessa's eyes narrowed before she even said a word. Noah gave a faint smile, but his shoulders tensed the moment I stepped inside. I set the gift bags down on the carpet. "I have something to tell you all," I said, voice shaking with excitement I was trying to contain. "I signed a contract. I made the team, Chicago Blaze, $6 million. Silence. Not awe, not joy. Just the kind of silence that makes your chest ache. The kind that confirms everything you were afraid of. Then Vanessa spoke, and everything shattered. What began as a homecoming quickly turned into the worst night of my life. A night that ended with me at the bottom of a staircase, bleeding, unconscious, and alone. But I survived. And now I'm telling my story because people like me don't always get a voice. People who've been betrayed by the very people meant to protect them. This is not just a story of success. It's a story of survival, justice, and a new beginning I had to fight for. If you've ever wondered what happens when family turns into enemies, keep watching. Because my story is just getting started. Growing up in a modest neighborhood just outside Boston, I used to believe that every family had favorites. I told myself it was normal, that every house had a Vanessa. Vanessa, my older sister by 5 years, was the star of our family. Piano recitals, art exhibitions, summer camps, private tutors. Her life was a gallery of curated accomplishments. Her artwork covered our living room walls. Her trophies filled the glass cabinet my dad polished every Sunday. Even the family dog preferred her. Me? I was the middle child. Not the oldest, not the baby, just there. I can't remember a single time my parents attended one of my basketball games. Not in middle school. Not in high school. Once, when we made it to the city semifinals, I begged them to come. Dad looked at me over his newspaper and said, "Basketball isn't a career, Robin, especially not for girls." Mom added, "Sweetheart, your sister has an art showcase that night. Don't be selfish." So I stopped asking. Instead, I trained harder. Stayed late after school to run drills. Watched YouTube videos to improve my footwork. I would dribble for hours on the cracked concrete of the community court, the echo of the ball my only applause. Even when it rained, I'd be out there. Slipping, sliding, drenched, but focused. One night, lightning cracked overhead as I ran sprints in the downpour. A neighbor poked their head out the window and yelled, "Girl, your mama know you out here?" I yelled back, "She doesn't care." They didn't respond. At home, things were different. Vanessa always had an audience. Every dinner became her stage. She'd share stories from school, about her teacher praising her portfolio, about a boy who gave her flowers, and my parents would beam like they were raising the next Picasso. Meanwhile, I cleared the table, washed the dishes, and tried not to choke on my own silence. When I turned 14, I joined the JV basketball team. I was thrilled. I came home holding the tryout results, grinning from ear to ear. Dad glanced at the paper, then at me. "Congratulations," he said flatly, "but don't let it distract you from something real." Something real. Vanessa once got a C+ in ceramics, and my mom called the school to complain about subjective grading. I sprained my ankle during regionals, played through it, and my parents didn't even know until I came home limping. They never asked. At 16, I got my first job at the local grocery store, stocking shelves and bagging produce. Not because I wanted life experience, but because I knew deep down that college was on me. My parents had already started saving for Vanessa's tuition at an art institute in New York. They bragged about it at church. "Vanessa's going to the Big Apple," my mom would say, proud and loud. No one mentioned me. So I worked. After school, weekends, holidays, saved every dime, applied for every scholarship, wrote essays on napkins during lunch breaks, slept 4 hours a night. And somehow, it paid off. I landed a scholarship to a state college with a strong women's basketball program. Full ride. When I showed my parents the acceptance letter, my mother said, "Well, that saves us some money, doesn't it?" That was it. No hug, no celebration, no dinner out. It would have hurt more if I hadn't already accepted it. In my family, love was conditional. Recognition was transactional. And Vanessa always had the better deal. She knew it too. She'd find subtle ways to remind me of my place. Like the time she accidentally used my favorite hoodie to clean her paintbrushes. Or how she'd conveniently forget to pass along messages, like Grandma's birthday dinner, and then make a show of my absence. "Oh, Robin didn't come. Maybe she's too busy pretending to be LeBron." And somehow, no one called her out. Not Mom, not Dad, not even Noah, my younger brother, who always kept his head down, floating through family drama like it didn't concern him. But I saw it all. I carried it. Still, I didn't hate them. I just wanted to outrun them. On the court, I wasn't the forgotten daughter. I was fast, sharp, fearless. Basketball didn't care who my parents favored. It only cared how I moved, how I hustled, how I played. It became my escape, my religion, my revenge. The night I met Coach Sophia, I was doing suicide drills under a flickering streetlight. My sneakers were soaked. My knees were scraped. I was alone, or so I thought. A battered blue sedan pulled up beside the court. A woman stepped out, arms crossed, watching me for a full 10 minutes. "You've got natural talent," she finally said, like she was noting the weather. "But talent without discipline is useless." That was the first time someone outside my school believed in me. And it changed everything. Back then, I didn't know what healing would look like. I didn't even know I needed healing. I just knew one thing. If no one was going to bet on me, I'd bet on myself. By the time I hit my freshman year of college, I was running on pure momentum. No safety net, no family cheering from the bleachers. Just the rhythm of the game and the grind I'd built into my bones. The court was my constant. The weight room, my sanctuary. I woke up at 5 a.m. for drills and shot free throws until midnight. When my teammates went home for the holidays, I stayed back and trained with the janitor who'd let me into the gym after hours. I wasn't chasing dreams. I was building an exit strategy. The university I chose wasn't a big-name Ivy. It was a solid state school with a decent women's basketball program and, most importantly, a full athletic scholarship. Free tuition, free meals, free housing. I didn't need luxury. I needed opportunity. And opportunity came fast. By sophomore year, I was the starting point guard. Junior year, I was breaking records. Single game assists, free throw percentages, defensive steals. Reporters started showing up. Recruiters, too. ESPN mentioned my name in a top 10 players to watch segment, but the calls I wanted from home never came. No, we're proud of you. No, when's your next game? Just silence. I sent game footage to my parents once. They never responded. Coach Sophia kept telling me, let that anger feed you, but don't let it own you. It was during this whirlwind rise that I met Marcus. And as cliche as it sounds, it really did happen over spilled drinks. I was late to practice, barreling into the campus cafe with my duffel bag and a protein shake. He was hunched over a table with a mountain of law books. We collided. My drink exploded across his notes like purple confetti. I froze. He laughed. Guess I needed a break anyway, he said, brushing off his sleeve. Instead of being annoyed, he struck up a conversation. Within minutes, I found myself telling this near stranger about my scholarship, my stats, my sister who hated me, and my parents who pretended I didn't exist. I don't get it, he said softly. Families are supposed to lift you up. And just like that, he became the first person I let close enough to see the cracks. Marcus was everything my family wasn't. Present, encouraging, unshaken by my ambition. He started showing up at games, sitting in the front row in a law school hoodie. He brought snacks to late-night practices. He believed in me, not as a player, but as a person. You're not just a great athlete, he'd say. You're built different. You know that, right? It still shocks me how much that mattered. Coming from him, it didn't feel like flattery. It felt like truth. With Marcus in the stands and Sophia on the sidelines, I soared. By senior year, scouts were at every home game. My name was floating in conversations about the WNBA draft. Agents were sending emails. Interviews were piling up. But the highlight came during the National College Championship. We were down 10 seconds on the clock. I caught the ball at the three-point line. The arena fell silent. My teammates screamed. The world faded. I took the shot. Swish. We won. That buzzer beater was played on sports channels for weeks. My inbox exploded. Chicago Blaze reached out the next morning. The first offer was good. 3 years, $4.5 million. But Marcus, now working at a sports law firm, wasn't impressed. They want you more than they're letting on, he said, redlining the contract. We can push this. Performance bonuses, appearance clauses, injury protections. We went back and forth with the Blaze for 3 full months. They'd counter, we'd counter again. And every time I doubted myself, every time I thought, what if I lose it all by asking for more? Marcus grounded me. You've earned this, he'd say. This is your shot. Take it. Coach Sophia backed him up. She'd been in the league long enough to know which teams were serious, and Chicago wasn't bluffing. They're building their roster around you, she said, looking me dead in the eyes. Don't settle. So I didn't. And when I finally signed that contract, $6 million plus up to $2 million in performance bonuses, it felt like stepping out of a cage I'd lived in my whole life. The press conference was surreal. Charles Wilson, the team president, shook my hand and said, "Welcome to the family, Robin." And in that moment, I almost believed him. But as I stood there, smiling for the cameras, the champagne flutes clinking in celebration, my heart felt heavy. Because the one family I wanted to hear that from wasn't there, wasn't watching, didn't care. I told myself I didn't need them. But deep down, I still wanted them to see. To finally see. So I packed up the contract, the gifts, the hope, and I drove home. I pulled into the driveway of my childhood home just past 7 p.m. The porch light was still flickering, like always. The crack on the front step still hadn't been fixed. The same wreath from last Christmas, now sun-bleached and lopsided, hung on the door. For a second, I thought maybe no one was home. Then I saw the soft flicker of the television through the living room window. Of course, Dad never missed the evening news. I gathered the gift bags from my trunk, 4 of them, one for each member of my family, and took a deep breath. "This is it, Robin. One last try." The door creaked open when I knocked. Mom answered, wiping her hands on a dish towel. She blinked, like she hadn't seen me in years. "Robin?" No smile, no hug, just confusion. "I wanted to surprise you," I said, keeping my tone bright. "Is everyone home?" She stepped aside reluctantly. "Your father's in the den. Vanessa and Noah should be back soon." I walked inside, setting the bags gently on the floor. Same pictures on the wall, same smell of cinnamon potpourri, same ache in my chest. Dad glanced up from his recliner. "Didn't know you were coming," he muttered, remote still in hand. Vanessa burst in 15 minutes later, keys jangling, makeup flawless. Noah trailed behind her with earbuds in, hoodie half-zipped. Vanessa stopped short when she saw me, her lips curled into a smirk. "Well, if it isn't the prodigal baller." "Family reunion," Noah said softly, trying to lighten the mood. I gave him a small smile. We all gathered awkwardly in the living room. I sat on the edge of the couch like I was balancing on a tightrope. "I wanted to share something important," I began. "I signed a contract. Chicago Blaze. 3 years, $6 million. I waited. Silence. Vanessa blinked. Mom's mouth opened, then closed. Dad raised his eyebrows, then leaned back like it wasn't worth sitting up for. Only Noah seemed impressed. "Whoa," he said under his breath. "That's huge." I reached for the bags. "I brought gifts. I just wanted to celebrate with you." Mom took the purse with a tight smile. Dad studied the watch like it was a receipt. Noah lit up when he saw the gaming console. Then there was Vanessa. She opened the jewelry box, a silver necklace with a pendant she once pointed at in a magazine. I smiled. "I remembered you liked this designer." She stared at it, didn't touch it. Then she snapped the box shut and set it down with surgical precision. "How nice of you," she said, her voice dripping in poison. "Throwing your money around like some celebrity must be fun to show off." "Vanessa," Mom said gently, but there was no real conviction behind it. "No," Vanessa continued, standing up. "Let's be honest. Little Robin comes home, waving her fancy contract and throwing gifts like confetti, expecting applause." "That's not what I'm doing," I said, stunned. "I just wanted to share this with you all." Vanessa laughed bitterly. "Your success doesn't erase the years you acted like we were holding you back. You think you're better than us now?" "I never said that," I whispered. "You didn't have to." The room turned colder than winter. Dad set the watch down. "I always knew this would happen. You'd make some money and forget where you came from." "Forget?" I repeated. "I came here. I brought you gifts. I wanted—" "What? Gratitude?" Mom cut in. "For wasting years chasing some fantasy?" "I've worked my whole life for this," I said, my voice cracking. "Everything I've done, I did without your help. And all I wanted was to share it with you." "Then maybe you should have kept your charity," Vanessa snapped. The word hit me like a slap. Charity. I tried one last time. "I'm buying a house in Chicago," I said, "big enough for everyone. If you ever wanted to visit, or even live closer, I mean." "Wrong move." Vanessa's face twisted in rage. "Oh, now you're offering real estate like we're strays you picked up on the street?" "Vanessa, that's not what I—" "Save it," she spat, storming toward the stairs. I stood, heart pounding. This was a mistake. Dad didn't stop her. Mom folded her arms. Noah stared at the floor. I picked up my purse, voice shaking. "I didn't come here to beg for approval. I came because—" "You always make it about you," Dad said flatly. That was the moment something snapped. I turned to leave, hoping to reach the sanctuary of my old room for 5 minutes of silence before leaving for good. I didn't get that far. Halfway up the staircase, Vanessa came back down, fast. "You always do this," she yelled. "Act like the victim." Poor Robin, so unloved, so misunderstood. I'm not doing this, I said, hand on the banister. Oh, you want to be alone, she hissed. And then she shoved me. Hard. Time stopped. I remember the flash of her face, twisted in hate. The gasp from Noah. The air leaving my lungs. The pain, sharp and sudden as my skull hit the wooden edge. I tumbled. 1, 2, 3. Black. And somewhere, floating between pain and unconsciousness, I heard it. My mother's voice. Cold. Final. She deserved it. Falling feels nothing like you'd imagine. It isn't slow, cinematic, or graceful. It's chaos, loud, jagged, violent. Your body forgets how to orient itself. The world turns upside down before you can even register what's happening. But in the moment between Vanessa's shove and the first impact, time did seem to slow. I remember flashes. The look in her eyes, not rage, but triumph. Noah's hand reaching out, too far, too late. My mother, unmoved, arms still folded across her chest. My father, blinking, unmoved, almost bored. And then came the pain. My back slammed against the edge of a step. My shoulder twisted awkwardly. Then my skull, crack, met wood. I remember a sharp flash, like a camera in a pitch-black room, followed by total silence. My body stopped at the base of the stairs, twisted like a doll someone had dropped carelessly. Then, nothing. They say you can't hear anything when you're unconscious. I wish that were true, because what I heard hurt more than the fall. She deserved it. That was my mother. Sharp, icy, no panic, no grief. Just a final judgment, like I'd spilled juice on the carpet and was being punished accordingly. Then Dad. Call someone, or don't. She'll probably milk this for attention. Vanessa? She was laughing. Actually laughing. She's not dead, she said casually. She's breathing. And Noah, the only one who hadn't said anything, whispered, "What the hell is wrong with you?" All? His voice shook. Mine couldn't. Then the world faded. I don't know how long I was out. Hours, maybe a full day. When I opened my eyes, the ceiling was white. Too white. The beep of machines, the hiss of oxygen. My tongue felt like sandpaper. My limbs were lead. Hospital. Everything came back in pieces. The stairs, the shove, the words. My throat burned as I tried to speak. A nurse appeared, tall, mid-30s, warm brown eyes. "You're awake," she said gently, brushing hair from my forehead. "Don't try to talk yet. Just blink if you can understand me." I blinked. Slowly. She smiled. "I'm Isabel. You're safe now." Safe. I wanted to believe that. But I was alone. Over the next few hours, I learned the basics. Concussion. Hairline fracture in my collarbone. Bruising along my spine. Internal bleeding, but nothing life-threatening. The nurse hesitated when I asked about visitors. "Did anyone come with me?" I rasped. She glanced down, then back up. There was a man. Marcus, I believe. He's been trying to get information, but wasn't listed as emergency contact. The people who were listed came and went, briefly. My heart sank. "Family?" She nodded. "They said you tripped, took your phone, wallet, and a bag, left before the doctors could speak to them." I closed my eyes. Of course they did. Marcus arrived that night. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. Hair disheveled, tie loose, eyes bloodshot. "Oh my God, Robin," he whispered, sitting at my bedside. "I've been calling every hospital in Boston. They wouldn't even tell me where you were." I reached for his hand. "They left me," I croaked. His jaw clenched. "I know. I went to your parents' house. Vanessa told me you'd had an accident. Your mom acted like it was no big deal. Your dad said, 'She's tough. She'll bounce back.'" He exhaled, then leaned in. "Robin, they drained your bank account. Almost 80 grand gone." My breath caught. "What?" "And your investment portfolio. They accessed it somehow. Your phone's wiped." Your Blaze contract was in your bag, right? I nodded. Gone. That's when the tears came. Not from pain, not from betrayal, but from the crushing weight of I knew better. I knew who they were, and still I gave them the benefit of the doubt. I walked into that house like a lamb to slaughter, and they didn't just leave me for dead. They looted the body on the way out. Marcus sat beside me in silence. When I finally spoke, my voice was steel. I want to press charges. He nodded. We will, but we'll do it smart. He opened his laptop. We need evidence, medical records, financial documents, witnesses. I blinked. Noah, I whispered. Marcus looked up. The brother? He saw everything. The nurse returned. She handed me a mirror. My face was bruised, one eye purple, my lips cracked, a long cut near my temple stitched clean. I stared at the reflection. This wasn't weakness. This was proof. Proof of who they were. Proof of what I'd survived. And deep in my chest, something flickered. Not rage. Not grief. Resolve. They tried to break me. They failed. 3 days. That's how long I spent drifting between shallow sleep and aching reality. Every time I woke up, I expected, hoped to see a familiar face. My mother's tightly pinned hair, maybe, my father's disapproving frown, even Vanessa's fake concern. But the only constant was Nurse Isabel. She was calm, efficient, and warm in that detached, professional way, the kind you don't realize you needed until you've hit rock bottom. You're stable, she told me on the 3rd morning, removing the IV from my arm. Strong vitals, you'll recover, but slowly. I nodded, grateful for any truth that wasn't laced with disappointment. Then came the question I didn't want to ask. Did they ever come back? She paused. The kind of pause that weighs more than words. No, just that first night. They didn't stay long. Did they say anything? Ask if I was okay? Isabel bit her lip. They asked about your phone. Your bag? Said you were probably embarrassed and wouldn't want visitors? She shook her head. I've seen a lot of things in this job, but that was ice cold. Later that afternoon, Marcus returned, suit wrinkled, tie gone, eyes full of fire. They emptied your checking and savings accounts. $78,000 gone within 36 hours. Transferred into a shell account under your father's name. And they weren't subtle. I clenched the bed rail. Can we reverse it? He sighed. It's tricky. They used an old power of attorney document you signed in college when you needed a cosigner. We'll fight it, but they knew what they were doing. He opened his laptop and turned the screen toward me. Recognize this? It was footage. Grainy but clear. From a doorbell camera. Vanessa, walking out of the house the night I fell, clutching my designer bag and phone. My father behind her, loading boxes into the back of a sedan. And here, he said, clicking another file, is the bank activity, transfers, authorizations, digital signatures, all within 24 hours of your injury. I stared, stunned. They didn't hesitate. They didn't even pretend to care. They'd planned this. Coach Sophia flew in that evening. She swept into the hospital room like a gust of wind, all athletic energy and unfiltered rage. Jesus, Robin, she said, eyes scanning the bruises on my arms. When I saw the news report, I thought it was an accident. It wasn't, I whispered. She sat on the edge of my bed and took my hand. You're not going back there. I shook my head. I'm not going anywhere near them. She leaned closer. The team's been briefed. Charles, team president, is furious. He's hiring PR. You're not losing your contract. I blinked, stunned. I thought they'd drop me. Sophia squeezed my hand. You're not the scandal here. You're the survivor. The hospital had flagged my case as potential domestic violence. Standard protocol. But still, it felt surreal to see those words written in bold on my chart. Do you want to file charges? A social worker asked, clipboard in hand. Yes, I said without hesitation. But not just against Vanessa. We built a case. Methodically. Medical documentation confirmed blunt force trauma inconsistent with a fall. Financial records outlined theft, fraud, and abuse of power of attorney. Marcus gathered screenshots of text, photos of bruises, audio messages I'd sent him in real time. But the smoking gun came from Noah. He came to visit me 4 days after the fall, nervous, hoodie up, hands in pockets. "I'm sorry," he said, not meeting my eyes. "I should have done something." "It's not your fault," I said gently. "But if you saw what happened, I need your help." He nodded slowly. "I have a voice memo. I was recording something when the fight started. I never stopped it." He handed Marcus his phone. Vanessa's voice crackled through the speaker. "You always act like the victim. Poor Robin. So unloved. So misunderstood." Then the sound of footsteps. A shove. A scream. A crash. Then silence. Then, "She deserved it. We had him." "You're sure you want to go through with this?" Marcus asked that night. "They're still your family." I stared out the window, Boston glowing beneath a pale moon. "No," I said, "they were my family." Over the next week, I began physical therapy. Small movements, painful stretches, the first steps toward reclaiming my body. I also began preparing for court, statement drafts, evidence logs, witness prep. My hospital room turned into a legal war room. But something deeper was happening too. For the first time in my life, I was choosing myself. Not their approval, not their validation, just me. As I watched the leaves change outside the window, burnt orange, deep red, fading green, I realized something. They didn't just abandon me. They underestimated me. And that was their biggest mistake. The first time I sat across from a lawyer in a courtroom setting, I wasn't the one being questioned. I was the one seeking justice. Marcus had transformed into someone I barely recognized. Calm, methodical, and relentless. Gone was the sweet guy who used to bring me protein bars after practice. This version of him had fire in his eyes and a stack of legal folders that weighed more than my hospital charts. We met with a criminal defense team that same week. Coach Sophia sat in on every meeting, arms crossed, nodding silently through every damning detail. "This is no longer just assault," Marcus said, flipping through our files. "It's attempted manslaughter, grand larceny, fraud, abuse of power of attorney, possibly even conspiracy." It sounded like a Netflix documentary waiting to happen. But it was my life. We divided the case into 3 major components. The physical assault, Vanessa's shove down the stairs, caught indirectly through audio, and corroborated by Noah's eyewitness account. Financial exploitation, the illegal withdrawal of $78,000, unauthorized use of my power of attorney, and the theft of my Blaze contract and personal items. Neglect and malice, the fact that my parents left me unconscious without calling 911, took my belongings, and actively prevented Marcus from finding me. Intent, Marcus said, tapping the table. "We need to prove they didn't just panic, they planned this." And the evidence kept building. Exhibit A. Noah's voice memo, the golden thread. Clear, time-stamped, unedited. Vanessa's voice, dripping in venom. The shove, the fall. And my mother's infamous line, "She deserved it." Exhibit B. Security footage from the neighbors. Doorbell camera showing Vanessa and my father carrying bags to their car just hours after I was hospitalized. Exhibit C. Digital forensics, tracing the IP addresses used to drain my bank accounts back to my family's Wi-Fi network. Exhibit D. Testimony from Nurse Isabel and hospital staff, noting the absence of family concern, the retrieval of my personal items, and their refusal to stay or sign medical paperwork. Vanessa was charged first. Felony assault, reckless endangerment, intent to cause bodily harm. She was arrested at her workplace, an art supply store she claimed she ran as a passion project, funded by God knows what. She didn't resist, didn't cry, didn't even blink when they cuffed her. My mother and father were served subpoenas a few days later. Unlike Vanessa, they lawyered up fast, claimed it was all a misunderstanding, that they were confused and worried sick and just trying to protect the family name. But the paper trail told the real story. The hardest part wasn't building the case. It was seeing my name in the headlines. WNBA star files charges against family in shocking staircase scandal. From slam dunk to courtroom drama, Robin Reyes takes on her bloodline. I couldn't go anywhere without reporters shouting questions. Fans sent messages of support and some of hate. Why air dirty laundry? Family is everything. She should be grateful for what she has. But I didn't flinch. Because the people saying those things weren't the ones who woke up in a hospital bed wondering if their mother had meant to kill them with her silence. We filed a civil suit in tandem with the criminal case. Restitution, damages, loss of income, emotional distress, stolen intellectual property. My playbook and contract materials were gone too. Blaze's legal team backed us fully. Charles, the team president, personally called me. I don't care about the drama, he said. I care that you're safe, and I care that justice is done. Meanwhile, Noah moved out of the family home. He'd been staying in a friend's basement, waiting for the heat to die down. But after giving his sworn statement and handing over additional texts from Vanessa, including one where she said, I hope the fall knocks some sense into her, he was done playing neutral. You deserve better, he told me over Zoom. I should have spoken up years ago. His voice cracked. You're not the only one they ignored, just the only one who fought back. The pretrial hearings were brutal. Vanessa's defense painted me as emotionally unstable, claiming I tripped because I was arguing violently and flailing. My parents claimed they acted in panic, saying they couldn't reach Robin's boyfriend and were traumatized. But the jury wasn't swayed. Not with the memo, not with the footage, not with the bruises still healing beneath my court-appropriate dress. As we approached trial, Marcus asked me one last time, Are you sure? This won't just end their lives. It'll end yours. The part that still believed they could change. I looked at him. Steady, certain. They ended that part the night they walked away. The trial date was set. People versus Vanessa Reyes, Patricia Reyes, and Anthony Reyes. Charges ranging from felony assault to theft, fraud, and emotional neglect with intent. I wasn't going into that courtroom as a victim. I was going in as the woman they failed to break. It was surreal walking into the courtroom, the same kind of silence as a locker room before a championship game. The same breathless tension. The same knowledge. What happens here will change everything. Except this time, there were no jerseys. Only suits. Only the sharp smell of cold coffee, old wood, and tightly pressed nerves. I took my seat at the plaintiff's table. Marcus was beside me, crisp, unreadable. Coach Sophia sat in the second row, arms folded, jaw set like stone. Across the aisle, my parents and Vanessa. My mother in a beige cardigan, holding a tissue she never used. My father in a worn-out blazer that still reeked of indifference. And Vanessa, hair tied back, wearing a smirk like it was designer. She didn't look scared. She looked smug. The judge entered. Court came to order. And the trial began. The prosecution started with the audio recording, Noah's voice memo. The courtroom listened in frozen silence as Vanessa's voice filled the air. You always act like the victim. Poor Robin. Then the sound. The shove. My scream. The crash. Then my mother's words. She deserved it. It landed like a thunderclap. Gasps. A reporter scribbled furiously. Even the bailiff's brow twitched. My parents didn't even flinch. Like they had heard it all before. Noah took the stand next. He looked smaller than I remembered. Hoodie zipped to his chin, voice cracking. But he spoke the truth. She didn't fall. Vanessa pushed her. I saw it. I heard it. Then they just stood there. The defense tried to rattle him. You didn't try to stop them? You're only 17. Maybe you misinterpreted. But Noah held firm. I knew what I saw. I've lived with them. I know what they're capable of. He glanced at me. I should have protected her. Nurse Isabel followed. Then the hospital administrator. Then the digital forensic analyst who traced the IP addresses and withdrawals. One by one, the puzzle came together. The defense had little to stand on. They painted me as emotionally unstable, resentful, dramatic. They claimed I had a history of alienating family, that the injuries were from a fall, not an intentional act. But when they brought Vanessa to the stand, everything fell apart. "Did you push your sister, Ms. Reyes?" She smiled. "I don't remember. Things were heated. We were yelling. She tripped." "And the audio recording?" She shrugged. "People say things in the heat of the moment. Such as, she deserved it?" She blinked. "I didn't mean it literally." The prosecutor leaned forward. "Then how did you mean it, Ms. Reyes?" Silence. For once, Vanessa didn't have a quip. When it was my turn to testify, I stood tall. My bruises had faded, but the scar on my temple, small, silver, permanent, caught the light. I looked at each juror in the eye. I didn't come here today because I want revenge. I came because I want truth on record. I took a deep breath. They didn't just hurt me. They erased me. They left me unconscious and stole everything they could carry, and now they want to rewrite that night as an accident. I paused. I have spent most of my life begging for their approval. But today, I'm here to take back my voice. The defense attorney tried to rattle me. "Didn't you once say your family was toxic?" "Yes, and they proved me right. You've profited from this story, media interviews, public sympathy. I never wanted publicity, I wanted accountability." Closing arguments came swiftly. The prosecution was firm. This isn't a case of a family disagreement gone wrong. This was calculated cruelty. A young woman rose to success, returned in good faith, and was met with violence, theft, and betrayal. The defense scrambled for pity. They're a family in pain. This was a moment of chaos, not crime. But no one bought it. The jury deliberated for less than 3 hours. When they returned, the courtroom held its breath. "We find the defendant, Vanessa Reyes, guilty of felony assault and reckless endangerment. We find the defendants, Patricia and Anthony Reyes, guilty of theft, fraud, and willful neglect." My mother gasped. My father shook his head like he'd lost a poker game. Vanessa finally dropped her smirk. The judge ordered restitution, jail time for Vanessa, and supervised release with mandatory counseling from my parents. Marcus placed a hand on my shoulder. "It's done." But it wasn't. As the bailiff led them out, Vanessa turned to me, eyes burning. "You think you've won?" I stared back, calm, steady. "No, I've survived. That's more than you ever let me do." 6 months after the verdict, I stood on center court at the United Center in Chicago. The arena lights dimmed, the crowd roared, and my name echoed across the stadium as the announcer shouted, "Your starting point guard, Robin Reyes!" And for the first time in my life, I felt seen. Not as someone's daughter, not as someone's shadow, as me. I had healed. Not completely, the nightmare still came sometimes. The flash of stairs, the voice saying she deserved it, the thud, the silence. But healing isn't forgetting. It's remembering without letting it own you. I had made it back, physically, emotionally, legally. And more importantly, I had rebuilt something I never thought I could. A life on my terms. The court case had wrapped up, but the headlines lingered. TV panels debated family betrayal as if it were a trending hashtag. Some called me brave, others called me dramatic. But I stopped reading the comments. Instead, I focused on the comeback. Rehab. Therapy. Training. I threw myself into drills, sweat, and soreness. Coach Sophia created a custom recovery plan, not just for my body, but for my mind. "Don't just return," she said. "Rise." I moved into a brownstone in Lincoln Park. No roommates, no chaos, just space to breathe. Marcus proposed in spring. Nothing flashy, just us on the rooftop, with Thai takeout and city lights flickering around us. "I didn't fall in love with Robin the baller," he said. "I fell for Robin the survivor." I said, "Yes?" He became my lawyer, my partner, my safe place. Noah came to live with us that summer. He graduated early, cut ties with the family completely. I offered him the guest room and a fresh start. He brought one duffel bag, a laptop, and more emotional baggage than I could carry, but we worked through it. "We never had each other's backs before," he said. "Let's fix that now." We did. As for my parents, prison humbled them, or at least silenced them. Vanessa served 18 months, then vanished to somewhere on the East Coast. I blocked her number. My mother sent a letter once. 3 paragraphs, no apology. I never opened it. I didn't need closure. I was the closure. I started a nonprofit that year, Off the Bench, a foundation for young female athletes estranged from or unsupported by their families. We gave scholarships, legal advice, therapy stipends, and a sense of belonging. I know what it's like to be invisible, I told them, and I know what it's like to come back swinging. My debut season with the Chicago Blaze broke records. Most assists by a rookie, top 5 in steals, fan favorite by a landslide. But what mattered most? Walking off the court and not needing to explain myself to anyone. I had nothing to prove, and everything to live for. One night after a win, I stood on my rooftop with Marcus and Noah, Chicago glowing beneath us, the air crisp and free. You know what the real victory is? I asked. What? Noah said, sipping his soda. I'm not afraid to fall anymore. Marcus raised a brow. That's a little dark. No, I smiled. It's light. Because I know now, when I hit the ground, I'll stand back up. And this time, it'll be on my own feet. And so I did. This isn't just a story about family betrayal. It's a story about identity, survival, and the power of choosing yourself, even when the people who should love you most decide to destroy you. Robin's journey shows us something painfully real. Sometimes, the greatest threats don't come from the outside world. They live under our roof, wear our last name, and smile during holidays. But here's the lesson. Family isn't who shares your blood. It's who stands by your side when everything else falls apart. Robin could have walked away quietly. She could have let the shame swallow her, like so many do. But instead, she fought back in court, on the court, and within herself. In doing so, she rewrote her entire legacy, not as the girl who begged for love, but as the woman who built a life that no one could take from her again. For anyone who's ever been hurt by the ones you trusted most, this story is your permission to stop apologizing, stop explaining, and start reclaiming. Because healing isn't about proving them wrong. It's about proving to yourself that you were right to survive. If this story hit home, don't scroll just yet. Smash that like button if you've ever had to walk away from someone you once loved. Drop a comment. What would you do if your own family turned against you? Would you fight back or disappear for good? Subscribe because tomorrow's story is even wilder. And trust me, you don't want to miss it. And if you think someone out there needs to hear this, share this video with a friend. On this channel, we tell real stories that stay with you. Stories that shake you, break you, and sometimes rebuild you. Your next favorite video is just one click away. Go watch it now.